Hi, everyone. Welcome to the podcast. I'm here today with my friend Chris Nicholson. Chris, how are you doing?
Good, thanks.
And we're going to talk about last night's episode after, like about a month or a month and a half break. It's called Point and Shoot of Better Call Saul. Chris, what did you think about last night's episode?
Well, Lalo died a bit earlier than I was expecting, and honestly, he died a bit easier than I was
Mm.
expecting. I thought that basically all he had to do was move a little the moment the lights went out, and then things would have gone a lot differently. But instead,
He
he
just
stayed in place.
he just had to move a little. Well, he didn't know that Gus had to have a lot going on. He had to put out the electricity, and then he has to know quickly that he's got a gun there and that he's going to shoot him. Um, yeah. I
Yeah,
guess I
I
guess
mean,
it's
it's
important.
true that he doesn't know for a fact that Gus has a gun lying around there somewhere. But at,
Mm,
at the same time, Lalo's been like a supervillain genius at every other step of the way in the show. He catches on pretty quick. All he had to
yeah,
do was say, "Hey, something's not going according to the plan. The lights went out. Let me move a little."
he doesn't seem though to be as smart or quick to catch on as like say Gus or Saul, Jimmy himself is. I mean, like he like at Nacho, he didn't get like it took him a while to understand that Nacho was betraying him, right? And it's always like it takes him a while. He's got to like he's gonna go do X, but then he like figures out he should do Y. But like he's always like his first instinct is always to do X. It takes some prodding for him to remember stuff. While Gus, it seems to be he naturally gets what's going on, doesn't it?
Well, maybe. I think they're both pretty sharp. Look, it's not a huge sin that Lalo
Yeah.
didn't just move a little bit. That's like it's a minor problem I have.
Well, he had
To
to
me,
shoot him.
actually,
He wanted to shoot him. He was just trying to do two things at once. He's trying to shoot Gus, right? What's the better move, to shoot him or to move,
well, he could
right?
have tried to do both.
I mean, yeah, he could have. He could have. It's tough.
Let
It's
me tell you my bigger problem with the writing, and maybe this is all a kind of minor one,
uh,
but it's when Lalo first showed up at the laundromat, and
yeah, yeah,
he's trying to break into it, and then it does a cutaway, and we see that there was a guy who was watching all these cameras, and he just
yeah.
happened to be away during the few moments when Lalo was on camera
No, but
breaking
I
in.
like that. I
Lalo
like that
comes in
because
and the guy sits back down and like, oh, there's nothing to see here. So like that was sheer luck, right?
But
And
no,
that was a lot of luck.
I think this show doesn't have enough sheer luck because a lot of these things should be sheer luck, and a lot of these things should go wrong for like very stupid reasons. Like he didn't think they'd have a camera in that exact place. Like there's no way for him to know like their exact security system. So like the fact that he got through could be luck. Like I don't think there's enough of that actually.
So let's run through it. So in like Lalo should have assumed that there'd be security cameras everywhere. So in like 99 out of 100 worlds, not the one we happen to see, he gets caught on camera, and then this goes a lot differently. And then
He's
Lalo just looks like an idiot because he didn't think about the fact there would be cameras there.
Didn't he go in? He went in. It was like through the ceiling or something, right? It was like through a. It was like on the roof, and then he went in through a thing. And what the camera, the thing that he missed, it was he was. It was on a like. Was that a natural entrance entry point?
Wasn't it through a fan
Yeah,
on
it
the
was the
side?
fan. And where did they see? And where did they see him on? Where did they miss him on the camera? What was that? Was that before he got to the fan part, or was that? Because I'm asking if it's a natural entry point. Like, did he find something that
Well, it's not like a
Gus was
doorway. It's not like a doorway, but it is like a big fan that is clearly covered on camera because they expect that somebody could enter through it. And the only
Maybe.
reason he makes it in is that the guy happened to be away from his seat for a few seconds, the right few
Mm.
seconds.
Yeah, I don't think it's 99 out of 100 the guy's not paying attention or going to the bathroom, but the fan might not be a natural like okay, so he has to believe that Gus believes that the fan is a natural place to break in. And so maybe Lala was like, where's a place that they would never suspect? And maybe that was a natural place to suspect, except Gus was smart enough to think of that, but just happened that, the guy happened to be up in the bathroom or whatever, right? I mean, that's
I'm not a security
another
expert, but
thing.
it seems like it was pretty easy to get in through that fan.
Yeah, yeah. And the other thing is Lalo thought. I mean, my bigger problem with the. I guess I had a little bit of a problem too, but not that specific scene. It was that like Lalo assumes that they're all gonna go to like Jimmy's apartment, right? Like Gus could have sent like 50% of them and kept 50% of them with him, right? He didn't need like, he didn't necessarily need whatever that was, the like 10, 15 guys or whatever. And I mean, it was sort of ridiculous. I mean, the gang is like walking up like this outdoor area in the apartment complex, and there's like 15 men in like black leather jackets.
Yeah,
It's just like nobody calls the police. Nobody thinks this is
right,
strange.
right.
You
And
know,
Mike is like, shh, be quiet. Don't disturb the
whatever.
neighbors.
Just like a
Well, he's
gang,
got
just
this like special ops squad stomping through the
it's like a
complex.
SWAT team going in. Yeah, like nobody's supposed to notice. Yeah, yeah. I guess you could start, picking holes in this. Yeah, I mean, always with murders. I mean, every show like where people get murdered, it's like this is so hard to do well. Like to have like a murder and then not have like 10 different spots where you're like, you know what, I think they should have gotten caught at this point. Like there's always just like weird stuff like this um going on. And like the other thing, I mean, when they're taking the at the end they're taking Howard's car and they're saying we're going to drive it to California, and we're going to, I guess I pretend like they're dumping him in the ocean. Like you think that you're going to get a car from New Mexico to the Pacific coast, and like I don't know what year was this. This was like 2010 or something. It's supposed to be
Yeah, a
2008.
little
Like you're
earlier.
not going to, and that car would never be gotten on any camera at any point in the 1,500 mile journey or whatever it is. They wouldn't have had to stop for gas. They wouldn't have had a gas station where it seemed that seemed strange, right?
Yeah, yeah. I guess maybe that's just for like because they just really wanted that shot of the ocean, and the ocean happened to be pretty far away from them. Realistically, they didn't have to go nearly all the way to the Pacific for
Yeah.
this kind of plan.
Yeah, they didn't have to go to the Pacific. Yeah, they could have
The
gone to a
little
river.
Pacific,
I mean,
like
they could have. Yeah, they could have dumped him in a river, right? They have this river, and
yeah, there are
Albert.
any number of places where they could have dumped his body or left his car. I think that they just really wanted the shot of the ocean and the shoes and the
No,
waves.
but he's got it
It
disappear.
was a cool shot.
You're right. You're right. Yeah, yeah. They could have. Huh?
So that's
But how do
actually the kind of thing that I'd forgive. That's the thing I'd forgive because I'm like, yeah, that's a cool shot. I agree with you.
but
And
all those
there
guys,
wasn't
all
much
those.
easier way you could have done it.
But I think that's all that SWAT team like with the music. I thought that was a cool. I thought that was a cool shot too.
Yeah,
I thought that was it was exciting in that moment. So I'd forgive that. Um, Yeah, he goes. Yeah, he goes to the ocean. Yeah, I guess they could get rid of the body. They're in the desert. They could get rid of the body. They want to get rid of the body in a way that they don't find the body. They can't just dump him in the desert and then put the car next to it because they'll see, they'll have forensic evidence and stuff.
yeah,
They'll say, "Where did he get the gun?" And so they need to make the body disappear and make it look like a suicide too. And so this is why the ocean works well, while like the desert doesn't really work.
yeah. It reminds me. I'm in Las Vegas, and so at the reservoir, Lake Mead, the water levels have been coming down a lot. So we're all these barrels are starting to pop up containing like bodies that the mafia dumped like
Huh?
decades ago.
Really?
So it's just a reminder. Like only 50% of murders are solved these days.
Yeah.
Apparently, it's not that hard. You don't have to go that far to hide the body.
Well, I don't think that they're all mafia murders. I think they're inner city murders where the people don't talk to the police. I think that's the majority of the murders that are not getting solved. Yeah, I don't think.
Oh, I'm talking about the barrels with
Yeah,
bodies in Lake Mead. They think
yeah,
that a lot of those ones are mafia guys.
yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. So yeah, now that we talk about it, yeah, I thought it was I thought it was a great episode while watching it. Now I still think it was exciting and interesting, but yeah, there are serious holes here. So yeah, we talked about before how the shooting of when he shot uh Howard, the silencers don't work that well. They have these moving men that, this gang is also like removing the refrigerator like the same day. Like the neighbors could see that too. Like, and so Mike knows at the end, he's like, they're going to come question you because at that point they realize, okay, his car was parked here for hours. Okay, they foresaw that, right? Um, a witness could see, like, whoever is going to drive his car now. Like a witness could see somebody get into the car who's not necessarily Howard, and they would say, it looks like this kind of guy. And then not seeing anyone for the whole trip, and then like they get their refrigerator changed, the same day. The neighbors are going to see that too, like the day when Howard is found or disappeared or whatever. Um, and then yeah, they do they. I mean, and Mike is going to buy the refrigerator for them, so they're the cops have a sort of lead here. They can go look for who bought the where'd they buy the refrigerator.
Yeah.
I think there's yeah, I think there's a lot here for some for the police to work with.
Yeah, and to me, I'm wondering how many of these potential holes the show is actually going to make relevant. And the one hole that I'm sure that the show has to consider is Cliff. Cliff is like the gigantic fly in the
Hmm.
ointment right now for this plot because,
Uh,
like Mike tells them, they have to go around saying exactly the same lie that they have been saying and setting up about Howard, all the coke habit stuff. But Cliff, I mean, he has all the information he needs to know that all of that is false. And so from there, it's a short step to Cliff just taking a passing interest in all this, and Cliff can establish, yep, uh, this whole story behind Howard's suicide, it's all based on a lie.
no,
Something
but
really shady is going
no,
on.
but Cliff was skeptical of Howard in the first, but then Cliff saw Howard. Oh, okay, so they talked after the meeting. Cliff thinks Howard is crazy, doesn't he? Because he was in the meeting where the photos came out, and then they talked
It's
afterwards.
a little ambiguous because
Uh,
what happens is, Cliff goes in, he goes up to Howard's office, and Howard is looking manic, and he says, "Look, I called the detective agency. They switched out the numbers.
yeah, yeah,
I called a fake number, and I hired a fake detective.
yeah,
They've been setting this up for months." And then basically, Cliff cuts him off and says, "Like Howard, I don't care. I'm not here to talk about any of that right now.
yeah.
Right now, we've got to talk about what's best for the client, and what's best for the client is to settle."
Mhm.
So, that was a semi reasonable position for Cliff to take at the time because, yeah, the client has to come first in that moment. But, all it takes is for Cliff to settle down after agreeing to the settlement and think about it all for a minute and say, yeah, maybe Howard isn't completely crazy. Maybe they did make him hire a fake detective. There's a lot of weird stuff going on. And Cliff's a smart guy. And especially now, he should be able to figure it all out.
But
Well, he should
that's
be able
not
to figure out that Kim and Jimmy were messing with Howard.
Yeah, I mean, they could figure out he was messing with Howard, and this would explain why Howard, which they're going to confess to, that Howard was at their apartment. Um, so there's gonna be that, but then Cliff could reasonably suspect, okay, they're messing with him and he's on drugs. Like I think Cliff could think that, or Cliff could think like he's just on drugs. The it's like what year actually matters a lot because I think in 2022, I think cameras have become much more ubiquitous everywhere. So I think that like there's a like every, like a normal, like 10, 15 years ago, I don't think like a normal middle class house would have like, a camera system, security system. That is a very recent development.
Uh
So
huh.
now there's cameras everywhere. Like when Kim was going to go shoot Gus, like the ring system, like you would assume like even a normal person, not even Gus, would have a ring system. I don't know how this was even supposed to work because Gus would have cameras. I guess maybe Lalo doesn't. Lalo's going to hop the border. I guess he doesn't care if Kim gets arrested for murder, right? Because they're going to have her on camera. Kim, I guess, doesn't know that. Doesn't know that Gus would be the kind of guy who has cameras. Maybe she does. I don't know. But like anyone today in 2022 who had a nice house would have a camera at the door, or very commonly.
Yeah, a
So she
lot of
would have.
people were.
Yeah, so this makes a big difference. I mean, it makes a big difference whether the fact that this is in whatever it is, 2008 or 2009 or whatever it is, instead of 2022. Although it still has some holes in it for 2022. But you said you talked about which loose ends are going to come. I thought this was, we talked about whether we're going to have like the post Breaking Bad period, and this seems like the end. This seems like the end of Better Call Saul. I was surprised that like I was like after the show was over, they're like the promotion. It's like, oh, 5 episodes, like 5 episodes. What else is there? I mean, five
Yeah, yeah,
episodes. Yeah, I
yeah.
think it's
I'm kind of like encouraged by that because it seems like we are really close to the Breaking Bad era now, and with 5 episodes left, at this point, it seems pretty likely that they've got to show us the future. They've got to
yeah.
move on.
Yeah, I don't think there's much left here. I mean, Lalo is dead. Lalo versus Gus was the big battle, right? Saul is Saul. Kim is doing her thing. There's really not anything. I mean, maybe Cliff or whatever. I mean, that doesn't seem like a big. There, maybe the murder investigation. We know that Jimmy doesn't get arrested for murder or anything because he's there during the Saul era.
Yeah.
Um, and so yeah, I think we might just have nothing left from the Saul era. We might just be going straight into post Breaking Bad. It'd be cool if there was during Breaking Bad, like something during Breaking Bad was happening, and then Jimmy talks to Kim about it. Like we could get something like that too.
We're one sign that we're really close is the fact that what his whole character stemmed from is one of the first scenes in Breaking Bad with Saul, where Walt and
Well,
Jesse take him out to the desert, and he's got the bag over his head, and he says, "It wasn't me. Ignacio did it. Did Lalo send you?" And
yeah,
so,
Mike
basically,
doesn't.
we're close enough in time to that he would say that he would still say, "Ignacio did it. Did Lalo send you?" So that
That
implies that
could
that scene is probably months in the future at most.
well, that could be 5 years in the. He might just that could be 5 years in the future. Theoretically, he could be worrying about this Lalo guy if he traumatized him pretty badly. But yeah, so what's key here is Mike doesn't explicitly say, like, Saul is like, is he's gonna Lalo's, what if he comes back, and then Mike says he's not coming back, he's not coming. I don't think he explicitly says he's dead.
Yeah,
Doesn't He doesn't, so he
and that's
has a
to
reason.
create some continuity, some possibility in Saul's mind that he might be alive.
Yeah, because they promised him Lalo was gonna not come back before, right?
Right,
When
right.
Lalo didn't,
He
Mike
might come
told him.
back again.
Yeah,
That kind
Mike told him he was gonna. Mike told him explicitly they were gonna kill him in Mexico, so he had reason. He thought that it was over, um, and so now he doesn't have any reason to believe Mike. Now, I guess. Um, yeah, I mean the cycle. I like the so what I really liked was. Um, Mike, when he's debriefing them at the end of it, and he's like, we're just gonna put some coke in the car. That's what you guys were going with anyway, right? We're just gonna continue. Like they're just in a continuation of like what they were doing the whole time. Is like what the Gus Fring gang was doing, which was I
yeah,
think was really funny.
yeah, yeah. Mike seemed to kind of be subtly critiquing them during that whole spiel, saying like, "Hey, this is a lot of his death was your fault," but
Yeah,
doing
does he
it in
know?
a
How much is he of this
understatement.
stuff? Does Mike know any of this stuff? Like this Mesa Verde stuff? I don't think he knows this.
Well, I think that from Mike's conversation with Kim in the diner, we're meant to believe that Mike basically knows everything important about their plot against Howard, and he just
Oh,
didn't care that much.
huh.
That's
I
what he
see.
told Kim. He was like, "Yeah, I know what you've been doing. I don't care. It's not my business. Just following
Yeah.
you for a separate reason."
Why does so yeah. Yeah. And so what did you so this is the big psychological, I think, question of the show. I think this is the most interesting thing and most fruitful thing we could analyze. When Jimmy tells Lalo to send Kim, what is going on? What's going on there? And she's like, no, 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 please don't. And it's not a plan between them because you see them like
Oh yeah,
whispering at each other
they
and they
disagree.
are they disagree strongly. What did you think about that?
Oh, I think it's pretty clear what was going on. Uh, Jimmy was trying to save Kim's life, and he was risking his own life because Jimmy thought that no matter what happened, there was a pretty good chance that whoever was staying with Lalo was going to die. Either the person staying with Lalo was going to die because the other person didn't pull off the assassination, or whoever was with Lalo was going to die just because Lalo might kill them anyway. And so Jimmy was just saying whatever he could to get Kim out of the room and to make him be the one who stayed.
Is it is
And
it
Kim
is
knew
that
that. Kim knew that, which is why she wasn't. She was trying to not let Jimmy do that, trying to
okay?
not let him sacrifice his life for her.
That makes sense, but for some reason, I thought he was taking the safe path. Let me try to understand. So I think whoever goes and shoots the guy is putting themselves in danger too, and they're potentially going to be arrested for murder. Um, Eventually. The person who stays behind might just go home. Lalo might just, let them go eventually. It seems like if you only cared about yourself, you want the strategy that gives you yourself the potential not to either go to jail for murder or be killed. You might want to stay with Lalo, maybe.
I mean, remember from their perspective, like 30 seconds ago, Lalo killed a guy just because he was a minor inconvenience.
Mhm.
Like from their perspective, staying with Lalo is the biggest danger of all.
Yeah, yeah. And he's actually making a good argument to Lalo that Kim is probably more able to get away with it than Jimmy. They're
Yeah.
probably less so actually they have an interest in this thing working out because they don't want the person to go and then just like not be able to do it. I think if you're Kim, I think when she was next to the police, I think you tell the police and I mean I think that's the best. I think that's the best. You're going to jail for murder. Because you had a chance to go to the police. I think you'll be convicted. It's not under duress. You had a chance to go to the police. I don't think you can. I don't think you can. You might get mitigating circumstances in that case, but I think you're still going to jail for murder if they catch you. Again, like even back then, I think you would think that this guy has cameras. Kim is like a professional person who's part of the community. They're gonna. She doesn't put her hood up or anything. She just walks up to the door, and so she's just gonna shoot this guy and like she's gonna get away with it like I don't think so. I mean I think I think it's there's not a this is not 1975. I mean there's cameras, there's electronics,
Well, I
people. Yeah,
mean, like you were saying earlier, I mean, should she have expected that there would be cameras? And even if there were cameras,
well
I
she
mean,
knows he's not a typical but Gus is not a typical Gus is a
exactly.
rich
From Kim's
sticky
perspective, this is probably a cartel matter. This is probably an internal cartel matter. And even
and
if she does succeed in killing the guy, they're probably not going to turn it over to the
cartel
cops.
guy would have cameras in front of his house. Wouldn't
Right,
he?
right.
Wouldn't he?
But from Kim's
He would
perspective,
go
this
to
is a
police.
drug trade matter. And
I
even
see.
if there are cameras, they're not necessarily going to immediately turn everything over to the cops. This is something
Yeah.
between people who are in the drug game.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. That makes everything. If you go to the cops while you're driving there, there's probably a better chance of Jimmy surviving because you're depending on Lalo's goodwill that if you commit the murder, he'll let Jimmy go. If you get the cops, they can do a SWAT team. They can surprise him. They can go
But
in there and
then
maybe.
again, now that I think of it, she's in like this middle class, well, this upper middle class residential neighborhood, and what she had was a six shooter. So she was going to fire off six loud shots. So actually, now that I think of it, it's not really even the cameras that matter. The entire neighborhood would be woken up by these rapid
And
shots.
she's got to take a camera too. Like I think that adds to the. She's going to set up her
So
camera.
there would be there'd be witnesses, neighbors opening their windows and rushing over, and there'd be cops arriving on the scene
So this,
relatively soon.
so this can all be explained by she is just really nervous, and this is a really tough situation for her. Lalo knows this plan is not going to work. Lalo knows she's going to get caught, and then all the people are going to. Why doesn't Lalo kill Jimmy before he leaves? That seems like it would have made a lot of sense.
Yeah, I
As
think.
Jimmy's sitting there,
Let's see.
he's
Why
ready to
does he
help.
not kill Jimmy? I guess
Yeah,
maybe from his perspective, maybe it's at least slightly better to leave Jimmy alive because Jimmy might buy him a little more time talking to them.
yeah. They'd assume he went to get Gus anyway, right?
And
Because Jimmy's there to help him.
there's nothing much in it for Lalo to kill Jimmy, other than being
Yeah.
annoyed.
Oh, and by the way, we discussed why he killed Howard, and now it makes perfect sense because the reason he was going over to Jimmy and Kim's house was to commit a murder, was to get them to commit a murder, right? Um, and so Howard can't be there as a witness that he showed up there. So it makes now. Why would you? I guess why would he pick Jim and Kimmy for this? Like Jimmy and Kim for this? Like he doesn't have any other friends in the cartel game that he can send to kill Gus.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, that's a good
it was
question.
they were that wasn't necessary.
But why does he pick them?
He
Well,
just
I
maybe he
mean,
just
maybe
somebody.
because remember, part of his plot is to get Gus to rush over a bunch of men to Jimmy and Kim's place.
Mm,
Maybe that's the main reason to choose them because
yeah,
they're the
yeah,
ones that are most plausible candidates to get Gus to be like, oh yeah, this makes sense. I'll rush over most of my team to their apartment.
yeah, yeah. Lalo's plan was pretty smart. I mean, it was pretty intricate, and I think it made sense. Um,
Yeah, it was not bad. I mean, there were levels to it. I mean, it still just bothers me that his plan, his grand plan, would have fallen apart. Would have been a lot more difficult if the guy had not been taking a bathroom break or a coffee break at that exact moment. If he'd just been
Yeah.
there, like,
Well,
oh,
I mean,
there's Lolo Salamanca. He's on the camera. He's breaking in. I got the drop on him.
right. And he needs. Okay, so Gus goes over to the laundry. So he's waiting at the. Oh no, no, he wants them to. Doesn't he want them to come to the laundromat? So doesn't he
No,
want
no,
them?
that's an option. Like, in fact, I think Lalo says it at a particular point. He says like, "Oh, it's a nice bonus that you decided to rush over here." I think Lalo had
He wasn't
considered
going to kill Gus. He was just going to take the photos, and he
his
was
main
gonna.
play was just the video of the laundromat, of the
Huh.
drug lab, and from there I wonder, okay, so if that's the main play, what happens if Gus doesn't rush over? Like, are you just running around poking random buttons, hoping to find the button that is gonna unlock the drug lab? Because Lalo's
Yeah,
smart, but he's not that smart. There are a lot of buttons in this place.
yeah. So
Like,
he.
so imagine if things had gone according to Lalo's plan. Okay, so here's my thing about the writing. Uh, Imagine if the main plan had gone off. Plan A, Gus simply doesn't rush over there, and so what you have then is the big payoff to Lalo's plan is that he's wandering around the laundromat, taking video of a perfectly normal laundromat, pressing every button he can find, looking for the magic button that is going to reveal the drug lab.
Yeah, but that's what. But so okay, so but maybe it makes sense that he wants to be seen on the camera because he tells him, oh, it's a bonus, but like that does maybe he doesn't want what's the guy's name, the drug lord's Eladio, whatever his name is. He
Yeah.
doesn't want that guy to think that he went to kill Gus. He wants him to think that he just went to get to the bottom of things, and then Gus shows up and he kills Gus, and he has the proof that Gus was bad. So maybe that was the plan.
I think according to the show itself, it wasn't the plan. Like, there's a line that Lalo says to Gus when he's got him at gunpoint at first, where he says something to the effect of like, "Oh, it's just a nice bonus that you're here."
Or maybe was he saying it in front of the camera? Was the camera there?
Yeah, and
What was he?
remember, it's not being caught on camera that got anybody to rush over there. Nobody saw Lalo on
No,
camera.
I know, but he was wanted to get caught. He wanted to get caught on. What I'm saying is he wanted to get caught on camera, but then the guy was in the bathroom. But then they went over there anyway, right?
This would get pretty elaborate. Like, in fact, the thing which led Gus to get over there was his interrogation of Kim, and then
No, but he knew that there was going to be interrogation of. He knew there was going to be an. Okay, you're right. And so he knew there was going to be interrogation of Kim. Um,
and Kim basically says, Jimmy convinced Lalo to let me go instead. And then Gus is like, the lawyer convinced Lalo, talked him into it. And basically, you see Gus deducing that Lalo couldn't actually, if this was important to him, he wouldn't actually be talked into changing his mind or his plan very easily. So you see Gus deducing that basically Lalo let himself be talked into sending Kim instead of Jimmy because Lalo didn't care which of them went. And he
mm,
deduces that because Lalo didn't care which of them went, that they're just a decoy, which means that his actual interest is in going to the laundromat.
yeah, is that actual interest in going to the laundromat? And so,
And so that
but
is all pretty elaborate. And I'm pretty sure it wasn't plan A for Lalo for Gus to deduce all of that and to go.
no, so what would so Gus when okay, so the plan for Lalo was when Kim is being interrogated, what was Gus supposed to Gus was not supposed to figure out that he was going to the laundromat. Gus was supposed to think that he was going to come to Gus's house. Is that what it was? Was
Yeah,
he did he think that?
I don't believe that Lalo, this would be getting many layers deep if Lalo was like, yes, I will let Kim go because Gus will interrogate her, and then she'll say something that makes Gus realize
Yeah.
that I didn't care which of them went, which makes Gus realize they're a decoy.
No, no, he doesn't.
Let him deduce that I went to the laundromat, and then Gus will go there with a small
So
team. I
you
don't
think
think that Lalo was in on any of that.
you think Lalo's plan was as simple as they go to Jimmy's house and then he just goes to the laundromat because they all left the laundromat and that's it.
His
And he was
plan
just
was
gonna
simply I take the defenses away from the laundromat, allowing me to go with my
uh
video and take the video for Don Eladio. And
Okay,
I'm
that
we can
makes
go back and look at it, but I'm pretty sure there's a line that Lalo says to Gus after he's at gunpoint, where Lalo says something about how he it was just a nice bonus that Gus was there.
it seems to me killing Gus would be a bigger prize than getting a video of the laundromat. I don't know. It seems it's
But it's
maybe
pretty
not.
tough to kill Gus, and beside it's not just
Why don't you get
that.
rid of all
He
his
does
men?
want Gus to end up dead at the end of this, but his most direct goal is to shame him and get him, make him an enemy of the cartel, and then maybe the cartel and Lalo will kill him together.
Maybe, or but maybe the
Maybe it's
Gus
about
Fring.
destroying his empire and then killing him.
But the Gus
But
Fring
I'm
gang.
pretty sure that the video of the drug lab was the main play.
But the Gus Fring gang is pretty formidable. So like you're starting a war with Gus, which is doesn't seem like the to me that the cartel is so strong that it could easily be sure that it's going to win that, right?
Oh no,
So
no, the
he's
cartel is way stronger than Gus
way
as far as
stronger.
manpower and resources goes. I
Mm.
mean, we've seen Gus's operation. We've seen that Gus's manpower has a cap of like 20. At around 20 guys, they run out of guys to send to places.
Yeah, yeah,
That
they
was
have
the
to go to
premise
one
of the last
apartment.
few episodes.
Yeah, they go to one apartment. Yeah, they're defenseless. Okay, that
You know,
makes.
once Gus has to defend three separate places, he's at his resource limit.
Uh-huh. Yeah. I mean, so yeah, that's funny. That's right. Okay. So this makes sense. So yeah, it's basically so Lalo is not driven by personal revenge as much. Like if it was just completely driven by personal revenge, it would just be about making sure you maximize the chances of killing Gus. I mean, he wants to hurt Gus, but he's he's playing a cartel game. He wants himself to have higher status within the cartel. He wants the cartel to do better. He wants Gus, Gus to be taken down. Okay.
Yeah,
That
and
makes
remember that there's another line there. Actually, this is a separate line from the one I was thinking of, where Lalo says it's a bonus that Gus is there. Later on, when they're actually in the meth lab room, and he's on videotape, there's a line where Lalo says like, "Okay, so turns out I'm going to have to kill you here, Gus. It would have been nice if this had ended differently, and Don Eladio and I took our time skinning you inch by
yeah,
inch." And
yeah,
so I
yeah.
think that that's a separate bit of evidence that that was the main play. The main play was to get the cartel to see that Gus was an enemy, and then the cartel would take him down and torture him slowly.
hmm Yeah, yeah. Right. That makes sense. Or maybe it was just like, yeah, it'd be nice, but I'm just, my plan was to kill him anyway. That's how I took it at the time. It was like, my plan is to kill him anyway. It would be nice to bring him down, but that's too inconvenient. I mean, okay, the biggest, I think even like one of the biggest problems is like it's like the old trope where like the Bond villain like gives you like a chance, like gives James Bond like an hour to just like as he explains his plan for him to get out of it. It had sort of that feel. Okay, 11 minutes till they get back. All right, I'm gonna shoot you in exactly like 1 minute. He's like
Uh-huh.
timing like exactly. It's like you still got to get out of there. Like you should give yourself some kind of room for error here. You can't just be
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
just confident about the timing. So
From an
that
artistic perspective, it is at least a kind of nice inversion of the trope of the monologuing, because this time it's not the villains monologuing.
yeah.
It's not the person in power who's monologuing gets him in trouble. It's the fact that Lalo allows the victim to monologue that gets him in trouble. So it's at least an inversion of the standard trope.
Yeah, and he gives him a lot of time. I mean, if he just shot him before he said, "Are you finished?" Like he would have killed him, right? He had to
I
give him
kind of
the
admired that scene, like how it played out, because as part of his monologuing, Gus gets increasingly wild, and along with his words get increasingly wild,
his
he kind of
voice.
walks in this arc, and the arc widens a little bit each time, allowing him to get closer and closer as he goes back and forth to the light switch, or the power cable. So
Uh-huh.
that was nice.
Yeah. Was that light switch? There was a scene a bit earlier when they were building, doing all this construction stuff. Where like I remember this. Do you remember there was some power thing? And like that thing was there in an earlier episode.
I mean, yeah. I mean, he measured the steps from it, right? He measured the steps from that power cable to the where he put the gun.
Yeah. Yeah, so he did this. Yeah,
So,
this
so
is
the,
all.
the Gus's plan might also have been ruined if Lalo had him stand in a slightly different place or a much different part of the lab where he hadn't measured the steps. or
So
he
that was
wasn't
the
that close to
was
the
the plan
cable.
to have a way to cut off electricity?
But
He
then
was
again,
a
I guess basically once Gus was down in the lab, he kind of subtly positioned himself so he was in proximity to the power cable.
yeah. So was the plan the whole time to always be access to cut off power and have access to a gun?
Oh yeah, Gus's plan the entire time, Gus's ultimate failsafe was actually, this is kind of nice. Gus was betting that Lalo would find his way into the lab, and betting that somehow Lalo would even manage to get Gus and him alone in the lab with Gus at gunpoint. And so his Gus's failsafe was to stash a gun, be able to cut the power, and know
Mm.
precisely how to get in the dark from the power cable to the gun.
And so that makes better sense. You don't want to have the gun right next to you because he would react before you did and he'd shoot you,
Yeah, yeah.
right? And so you gotta move to a predetermined location to get the gun to shoot him.
So it's kind of
Um,
nice that in this in this cat and mouse game, at every step of the way, you see Gus and Lalo being able to make progress because they assume that the other guy is smart. That's kind of the nice feature of their little duel.
yeah, yeah, that is fun. So it's like seems like everyone seems like in this universe, like everyone's smarter, like beats everyone who's like slightly dumber than them, right? So it's like Walter White, Gus is like the apex predator in Better Call Saul, but like he's bested by Walter White, who is the apex predator of this entire universe. And then I guess Lalo is one step below uh, Gus, right? And I guess Mike is always ahead of Mike is never taken advantage. He's like an apex predator, but in like a different division. He gets killed. Well, that's funny. When Mike gets killed, it's different from the other ones. It's like each one of these other ones is like someone is beaten by their like better. So it's like Walter White is like beats, outsmarts Gus. Gus outsmarts or beats Lalo. Um, Walter White kills Mike, but like on accident, which is sort of funny, right?
Hmm. Yeah, just out of sheer pettiness, because
Yeah.
Mike, as canny as Mike is, the one thing Mike didn't plan for was how petty Walter would be to kill him
But
over nothing.
it was accidental, wasn't it? I remember that scene as accidental. Like they
No,
were
no,
just
it's
fighting.
not accidental. Walt intends to shoot Mike. It's
Okay.
just that basically Mike insults him, and Walt's ego can't handle it.
Yeah, and
Uh,
Walt regrets it. Walter regrets it right away, right?
and then Walt regrets it right away, and that's one of the last thing he does is he realizes and he says to Mike, like, man, I didn't actually need to shoot you. There was this other easy thing I could have done.
Yeah, I got to go
And
back
then
and
Mike says, "Shut up and let me die."
I okay. Yeah, but it's not. It's a different kind of killing anyway. It's not a it's like one of those things. It's one of those things that was just like stupidity and chance that I think there's not enough of the show.
Yeah. So
And
to
so
respond to what you were saying a moment ago, I don't necessarily think it's a matter of the person with one extra IQ point or a couple extra IQ points always defeating the one with a couple fewer. I don't think it's that. I think it's more the flaws that undoes somebody. It's their character flaws that undo them in the end. Like Walt does not defeat Gus because Walt really outsmarts Gus. It's
mm,
because Gus has this fatal character flaw when it comes to the Salamancas of
yeah,
always risking himself to defeat them personally. And that's actually a character flaw that we see come into play here with Lalo. And Mike points it out to Gus. Gus did not make the smartest play possible when going to the laundromat to confront Lalo. Like, he should have brought in more guys. He didn't have to go in personally. Things could have gone great for him. As Mike said, there were basically many possible worlds where Lalo ended up making a dumb move and getting himself killed, where Gus ended up getting himself killed. But so it's the same character flaw, the need to confront the Salamancas personally. It works out. Luck is on Gus's side this time, but luck is against Gus when he gets killed in Breaking Bad, because he needs to confront the Salamancas personally.
yeah. That's good. And then Lalo's death, I think he also has a fatal flaw, but his flaw is different. He is loyal to a fault to the Salamancas, who are morons, seemingly morons, except for him. I like during Gus's speech where he's like, "I built it. You couldn't have. You guys are too stupid. You're short-sighted. You're brutes." He has like this idea that he is like a refined, intelligent, forward-thinking criminal, and they're just dumb, savages. And Lalo is, a step above in intel. Like Hector just seems like, it doesn't seem Hector smart at all. Most of these guys don't seem, smart at all. They're just dumb and brutish. But Lalo has, a lot of loyalty to the cartel, and he cares about the family business a lot, and that's why he's taking the personal risk on the behalf of the cartel. He's doing all this kinds of crazy things which none of the other ones were like the smart would have been smart enough to figure out or capable enough to do on their own. So his flaw, as evil as he is sort of family loyalty, right?
That's interesting. Yeah, I'm gonna have to think more about what Lalo's fatal flaw is. That definitely might be part of it. That like if he just wanted to kill Gus, he had plenty of opportunities to do it right at the end. It's just that he wanted to get the full confession for Don Eladio.
Yeah.
So that could be part of it. Yeah.
Yeah, and he doesn't know. Yeah, so he doesn't know that. Gus reveals to him what he did to Hector. Although the way Gus explains, he doesn't really explain well, like how he got him. So Gus might not believe that. Like I made him well. Like he might not, have a reason to think that's true. So he doesn't have that. He doesn't know Gus did that. Um, they started. How did the beef between Gus and how did the I guess Hector killed his Gus's boyfriend, I guess. Yeah. I guess that's the root of all of this. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
this is stupid. Yeah, I guess if they like the fatal flaw of them is they like made an enemy out of Gus for no reason. Like they killed that guy for what? I mean, I don't remember
Their
the
fatal
last.
flaw was homophobia.
See, this show is woke after all. Yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to remember back in the scene. It was just they found them slightly annoying or something, and maybe it was homophobia. Maybe they were like, "Oh, what are these fruits doing?" in our
It
cartel
might have played a
business.
role in. They didn't have a ton of reason to kill Gus's boyfriend all those years back. I'm not sure why they killed him. I guess part of it was they found him slightly disrespectful. Uh, I forget the exact details, but like maybe Gus and his boyfriend they were doing some kind of drug trading without permission to try and impress the cartel. I think that might have been part of it.
Yeah, yeah. We should watch. We should. I watched all of Saul in its entirety for the final season. Again, I rewatched it. I'm except for the last like 3 episodes, which I got to get to. So everything's fresh on my mind from Saul. Breaking Bad, I haven't rewatched since it ended, which was around 2012 or 2013. We should go. We should go back and watch. You want to rewatch Breaking Bad at some point?
Yeah, it's been years since I watched it,
Yeah, I think
so
with,
so
with
I think that I'm due now to be impressed by it again.
Yeah, I think that's right. And with Saul, it's a completely different. Like, okay, so Crazy Eight. I did not realize that guy in Saul, the Crazy Eight in Saul, is the same. Like I
Oh
didn't
yeah,
realize he was Crazy Eight until like last week. Until like I was rewatching it, and then somebody called him Crazy Eight. I'm like, oh wait a minute, that's the guy from the start of Breaking Bad. And so like putting these things together, there's like a lot of these things that I don't even remember. These connections I haven't made or I've forgotten. Um, so yeah, what else? I mean, what else? What else happened in this episode? So they are. Yeah. So I mean, is there any reason we should not be in Omaha next week? Besides, they're not going to keep us around for Cliff. I mean, they're not going to do that.
well, so I think the show. I'll make a prediction. Some of the loose ends that we've been pointing out, like the travel to the beach, or the stuff about the videos. Some of these things are not going to be picked up by the show. They're just artistic license. But Cliff and what Cliff knows is such a big loose end that I think the show has to take it up.
Okay, my view is that Cliff is not important. So I'm going to make the opposite prediction that we will never see Cliff again, except for maybe a small scene where he's just sort of wondering, what's happened or something. I
I mean, but
Yeah,
don't you see, like Cliff has all the information he needs to know that Jim and Kimmy were fucking with Howard, and it was part of a big plot, and it's a plot that paid off really well for them financially. And, and
Yeah,
and Howard even told him shortly before his death. He told him some of the key details of the plot.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Maybe you're right. And so maybe you can imagine that, like, okay, I think what could happen is the world, the world figures out about their plot. That's exposed, but that doesn't mean they still can think he killed himself, because they go and they call the cops. They admit that his car was there, and so like you could imagine Kim's reputation becomes ruined, for taking part of this, and maybe something she does, she becomes a criminal or something. I don't know what she does, but like her personal reputation could be ruined here, even though they don't get arrested for murder,
Yeah.
and then she just becomes like Jimmy, like they just become like a pair of just irredeemable bad people, rejected by all respectable people in the community, and doing underhanded and bad things, right?
Well, there's also something that's got to pay off. There's a Chekhov's vacuum cleaner guy whose business card Kim saw when they visited the vet, and she
Okay,
saw
so
his
yeah, so this
laptop.
is one of the things I picked up while rewatching Saul. It's the beginning of like season 5 or something close to it. He calls the vacuum cleaner guy. Do you remember this? He actually does call him
When? Which
in
time?
Omaha. It was like the beginning
Yeah,
of
yeah.
chapter 5. He does call him. We know that. So it's not just taking the card. We talked about this as foreshadowing, but it's beyond foreshadowing. We have the video in Omaha of we have the scene in Omaha of uh, Jimmy calling him, but then you probably don't
Yeah,
even remember this
after
because
meeting the guy Jeff, you're saying
Jeff. Who's Jeff?
the guy Jeff who recognizes
Yeah, the
Saul at the
douchebag.
mall.
Right,
Yeah, yeah,
right.
and then Saul calls, Gene calls
Okay, so
the
you do
vacuum cleaner.
remember you do remember this. Okay,
I
so you do
remember that. I'm saying there's a separate thing that's got to pay off. What's got to pay off still the main timeline is that Kim saw the vacuum cleaner guy's card and looked at it. We still need to pay off to that scene of Kim looking at the vacuum cleaner guy's card.
why does Kim, because Kim and Jimmy are going to stay together? So anything. So I'm assuming that Kim is probably with Jimmy in Omaha, or something like that. I mean, she was the one who gave him the card. I mean, I don't. Um, I don't know why it has to be matter that Kim saw the card.
The camera lingered a long time on it, and
Mhm.
so I just got the impression. And Kim looked at it, and Kim was confused because she was like, "Hey, what is this guy, this criminal, in his book of criminal contacts? Why is his bookmark a vacuum cleaner business?"
Do you remember
And so
the
it
how
was a
with the
clear
vacuum
setup.
cleaner? Mhm.
Hmm?
Yeah, and then if you remember, he finally hangs up on the vacuum cleaner guy. Says, "I'm just going to take care of it." Remember that?
Right, right, and that's in the future with Gene calling him.
And
Yeah,
I
I
think
mean,
that's
look, we know that Saul basically at some point in the main current timeline, Saul is going to look into the vacuum cleaner guy because he's the one that connects Walt to the vacuum cleaner guy. Then he
Mhm.
himself uses him to end up in Omaha, and then later, as we saw, Saul ends up calling him back and then changing his mind. So we know at some point soon, probably, Saul is going to look into and learn about the vacuum cleaner guy. So we still need to know how and why does Saul first learn about the vacuum cleaner dude, and how does this connect to Kim looking at his card? And so it
Mhm.
seems likely that Kim is going to be the first one to look into and discover what vacuum cleaner dude does. That's how Saul is going to first learn about his.
Oh, so maybe Kim is disgraced publicly and wants to disappear, and then she leaves Jimmy. Like she could leave him, and then Jimmy is just heartbroken. He's out in Omaha. He's living. Oh yeah, he's living alone. We see him a lot of scenes in Omaha. He's just sitting alone in his
To all
house.
appearances, he seems to be living alone, just like
Yeah,
eating
yes,
TV
he's not
dinners
there.
and watching old commercials of himself.
Yes, he's broken. That's right. I didn't put that together. I always thought maybe Kim could be
I
there with
don't
him,
think
and
that Kim is just out of the scene in every one of
she just happens to be out shopping. Yeah, she's cooking or something.
them. Right.
Uh, you're right. And so I thought they were going. I thought she. Did you think there was a chance they were going to kill her off last night?
I didn't think there was a high chance that Kim was going to die. I still don't think so. I'm leaning right now toward Kim being disgraced and learning about vacuum cleaner guy and leaving and assuming a new identity.
Yeah, leaving. So this is how it ended for Jesse Pinkman. You see El Camino.
Yeah,
Yeah. So Jesse Pinkman got the happy ending. um, this would be a sort of Saul has a miserable ending. Maybe well, his ending is either he's going to stay in Omaha and he's going to go, he's going to stay anonymous, or he's going to go to jail forever. It doesn't seem like there's a good ending for Jimmy. Kim could have a good ending. She could become like, yeah, this is not consistent with going with vacuum cleaner. She could become, yeah, I was always fascinated by the idea she would become like, like an important pillar of the community, like a politician or something. Or that seems becoming less likely. A vacuum cleaner guy can't do that for her.
Yeah.
I assume. So
Well, she could
she's
become a pillar of some other community. Who knows?
uh, she could become a yeah. What other community? Yeah, she could become like a disreputable a lawyer for some like the mob or something like something like that. But she's no way. Why is she getting this? She's disappearing to get out of the public eye. So that is she can't go
Yeah,
back.
I
She
mean,
can't go back into the
question is
public eye.
where and how far is he going to relocate her? There's been talk lately of I think the producers or the network wanting another show set in this universe. I don't know if that's going to happen. I'm not sure it should happen. Uh, but if it does, probably the biggest loose end to follow up is Kim and what happens to her after all of this. That's kind of probably the greatest opportunity for another show.
Yeah. I mean, she's too old. She's too old, I think. I mean, she's like already like, 50. I think they're supposed to be young in this show. Like, I don't think like, I don't know. Like people are not going to be interested in Kim, when she's 60. I just think that's not
I
an
don't know. I
appeal.
mean, actress looks younger than her age
She
for
looks
one.
much younger. That's true. That's true. She does look younger. What else could she be doing with her? Yeah, she could be doing what else could she do with her life? Because she can't be public. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I'd watch it because I love this universe. I
Do
hope they
you
don't
think
go.
there should be another show set in this universe anytime soon?
I'd say no because I think that I just don't know what you do with Kim. I just don't know how you. I don't know what you do with Kim. Like I don't know how she become like I'd watch like Kim becoming like a senator from New Mexico or something like after all of this. I think that would be funny.
You know,
Maybe
I,
maybe or
I would not
maybe
mind a show about Lyle, the further adventures of Lyle. It would be
well,
called
that was
It's
so funny that
Simple.
episode. Yeah, I keep thinking about that. I just rewatched the episode where he was cleaning the deep fryer, and like
Yeah,
I thought Gus was gonna like deep fry him, but in that episode, I thought he was gonna die. Do you remember this?
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
thought Gus
Lyle has become a sleeper hit with the fans.
has he really? Well,
The
sure,
perfect
Mister.
employee.
You know what this
No, the
show is.
one man that Gus respects most.
This show, yeah, yeah, it respects him and Jesse Pinkman. Yeah, what this show does very well, what this universe does very well, is it portrays people who are just straight arrows, who are just squares, right? Um, the I mean, Lyle is like a perfect example of this. The guy, remember the guy that Mike stole the badge from? At what's it called? Madrigal Industries. Remember when he stole the badge to go in and then do all the security stuff for the Gus company?
Yeah, yeah.
That guy is also like that. He was just like a straight arrow. He's just like the scene. It opens with the guy, and he's just coming out like for work. His son like needs him to fix a bike. He's like, "I'll do it for you, sport, but this is the last time. Next time, I'll fix it." So he just fixes his kid's bike, and you're wondering what is the like? Well, who cares about this random guy fixing his kid's bike? And then you realize it's just like he's just portrayed as like a normal square guy. And Lyle is this too. And I don't know, like art, like there's not a lot of these people. These people in real life, like what is that? The Kettlemans are like this, but like a creepy, like evil version of this, right? They're not like that. They're this on the surface, but they're really like bad and weird. They're actually weird. But then it has these people who are like straight arrows, who are lame and sort of uncool. Not lame in this universe, but like lame to maybe the larger society, and that are these straight arrows, and it just portrays them like being themselves. And there's not a lot of this. There's the you see the Kettleman thing where like these creepy religious people, and and you see that as like a trope in art, but you don't see like the positive version of the Kettlemans. Like our culture does not, our culture is like too ironic and cynical for that. One thing, this reminds me of like The Simpsons. I haven't watched The Simpsons in years, but like most people our age, I was a big fan of it growing up. Like when Ned Flanders started out, he was sort of like lame, but he was also like a sympathetic character. Over time, they made him into like a Republican Christian conservative who was like trying to like ban homosexuality and stuff. So it became like, okay, like this square guy has some bad, evil, intolerant thing to him. But
Is
the
that what the
Breaking Bad,
term flanderization comes from? Is it
what
talking about that?
Flanderization?
Have you heard? I've heard that term.
I
I
haven't
didn't
heard.
actually watch that much of The Simpsons, but I've heard the term flanderization running around.
No, is that what it means? What I'm talking
It,
about?
it might be. It might be from what you're saying.
Okay, yeah, so I haven't watched Simpsons in maybe 10, 15 years. So it was already happening like in 2005. I mean, this is a long time ago. It was like, I think it was during the Bush, George W. Bush, where it became Christian conservatives, became like a boogeyman of liberals. So by this time, Flanders had become politicized.
Uh,
While like in the 1990s, maybe early 2000s, he wasn't. And so today, I imagine it's much worse. I don't know. I don't watch The Simpsons anymore. Um, but yeah, it's so. Anyways, yeah, this show portrays such people, and most shows don't. Is
yeah.
guess is I guess
You
what I'm
know,
getting at.
when I watch Gus's interactions with Lyle, really, whenever I watch Gus just running Los Pollos Hermanos, like I keep
Yeah,
thinking, couldn't this guy have made even more money if he just went into some regular business? Like,
Mhm.
first of all, if he was working full time on his chicken empire, he probably could have done pretty well with it.
Yeah, you're right.
He could have expanded it, but he could have also done something other than chicken, something more profitable. I feel like Gus could have made even more money if he just ran a regular business of some kind and didn't
Well,
really.
chicken can be profitable. I mean, I'm sure KFC, or if he had like the potential to build this into like a KFC or
I
a
feel like he
Popeye.
could have.
Yeah,
He could
you're
have.
right. Well, this is a problem with everything. Every person seems way too smart for what they're like. Mike has to like take like he's like a Rambo figure who's like has 160 IQ, but like he has to take like bodyguard like jobs for a couple $100 in order to give some money to his granddaughter. He seems like he should have built up more of a nest egg over his life. Walter White too. I mean, he's a high school teacher. Like, okay, he missed out on the business that made a lot of money. So like you see that he could have done that, but he could have done something besides be a school teacher, which is not the greatest job in the world. And then you have Jimmy. Jimmy is way smarter than what he's driving this terrible car, even after he has a law degree, and that one's okay. I see Jimmy as like a complicated figure who like sabotages himself and likes being a scam artist, and so that sort of makes sense to me. One of the best scenes with Jimmy is he when he first gets a nice apartment and he can't sleep, so he has to go back to the back of the Vietnamese nail salon, and that's the only place he can get a good night's rest because
Yeah.
he doesn't believe like he belongs in or whatever. He's just uncomfortable like having things. So that makes sense for Jimmy, but for most of these other guys, yeah, they seem like they could be doing a lot more. Gus might be path dependency. I mean, it might be like Latin America, like maybe drugs. Like if you're, really good at like stuff and you want a free market in something and you're good at like, committing violence and leading men, like maybe drugs is a
Yeah.
rational path.
Yeah, and I guess for Gus, in his case, the reason he sticks with the drug path to making money is because, like he says, it's about revenge. The revenge against the Salamancas is the primary thing driving him, and
Yeah.
against Eladio.
Yeah, I guess he could have made a lot of money and then tipped off the DEA, but that's not good. And then like had them all go, but I don't think that's Gus's. I don't think that's Gus's way.
Yeah.
I think it had to be.
I mean,
He had
Gus says it himself. I kind of liked his rant to Lalo because even though it was highly calculated,
yeah.
the way he summoned the passion was by speaking his true thoughts. Like he was like, "You guys say that you're all about blood for blood. You're not. You'll sacrifice revenge for money. But me,
Uh-huh.
I'm all about revenge, blood for blood."
Oh, huh. Interesting. Yeah, it reminds me of Nacho also. I mean, it reminds me of the Nacho thing of a few weeks ago. It's very reminiscent of that, where he's about to die and he tells the Salamancas what he thinks of them. Yeah, the Salamancas are not. Yeah, they're just bad. They're just bad people, and everyone with like a moral compass in any way, like realizes like they are bad people and tells them, and tell two. We have two important characters, telling them off. One of them dies, and the other one uh, doesn't. Um, Mike's. yeah, but, Mike's loyalty to like, Mike could have been a real I guess Mike could have been a real consultant, right? I mean, he could have been a security consultant, like, instead of a fake one.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, maybe he's probably a couple decades too old to be working for Blackwater, but he could have done some kind of
well,
security
I mean,
consulting.
apparently his physical conditioning and his ability to, get out, these situations appears to be, unparalleled. He seems like he should
Right,
actually
right.
do very well in but maybe he wants to spend time with uh, Kaylee, and maybe the criminal lifestyle is more conducive to work-life balance. And going Blackwater, you'd have to go to Iraq or something.
Yeah,
Yeah, Blackwater, you'd have to go to Iraq, and this was during Iraq. Yeah, so you'd have to go to Iraq or Afghanistan.
that's
Yeah,
true.
he loves his granddaughter. So so this is yeah, so I trust the writing. I mean, I like here that I don't think, like, we talked about some things that are a little, but I don't think there's going to be a lot of direct contradictions between this and the Breaking Bad universe. I think they do a really good job on a lot of this stuff. Um, y- did you watch did you watch, like, the end when they said, 5 more episodes? They didn't show any preview. Did you notice this? They often show a preview of what's going to
I
happen.
never even looked for the previews anyway.
Yeah, well, I'm sort of divided, but, like, so the show's over, and then I fast forward on my TiVo. I go to, like, the end. They say 5 episodes left, and it's just a shot of Saul Goodman's office. But usually they show some kind of scenes from future. They showed no scenes here. They want to keep it under
Really?
wraps, whether we're in Breaking Bad universe or still in Saul era, or we're past that. So I think there's supposed to be some um, ambiguity here. Um, and yeah, I mean, I feel like this is a wrap. I don't feel like Cliff. I don't feel like Cliff matter. I don't think Cliff is a big enough hook, for
He
us to
just
stay.
knows so much that as good writers they have to follow up on that. They've already set up that the police are definitely going to be interested in this.
Mhm.
Cliff is so close to the situation and knows so much that he just has to get involved, and he has to know that it has to become relevant that Cliff knows that Jim and Kimmy were setting up Howard for a long time with an elaborate plot to make him look like he had a coke habit.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would lose respect for the show if they did not
You lose
make that
it's is
relevant.
that important? Okay, I'm just trying to imagine what the scenes look like. It can't every Cliff can't be every scene. So they're gonna show them, I guess they're gonna show Saul. One way to do is you show Saul going to work. And he's distracted or whatever. Kim has what did they say? She has that appearance before a quarter. So you could watch her going to work. Um, and you could imagine that DA woman, who's always, sort of sniffing around. She could be um, talking to Kim.
I'll
But
tell you one thing: the police should probably end up interviewing Cliff. It's just part of their due diligence because they're interested in Howard's coke habit, and Cliff was one of the main witnesses that's relevant to all of that.
yeah, yeah, I think in this universe though, like, the local police are, like, overmatched by, like, these criminals, because it's always like the DEA might get on you. It's always like possibly you might have to worry about the feds. No one seems to worry about the local police in any situation. So to bring the local police and start making them important now, I don't know. They just seem not to matter.
I don't know. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So okay. Is there
We have a nice difference of opinion here, and one of us will be proven right or wrong pretty soon in the next
Yeah, I
couple
don't
episodes.
do I do I disagree with you? Yeah, if I have to take a okay, so when they show that scene, did they need okay. So yeah, I mean, another interpretation of Cliff is that scene where Howard explains to him. It's just there because Howard can't be talking to, like, Howard has to, like, yeah, but Howard has to, like, sort of get it off his chest what's going on, but at the same time he doesn't have to go into that detail and actually, like, make it look convincing to Cliff. So the fact that he does that indicates you might be right. So I'm not. Yeah, I guess I'm not sure. I'm not that confident in my prediction. I have very very weak confidence in this prediction. But yeah, this is what makes the show. This is what makes the show cool. Yeah, we don't know. What did you think about that scene where they, wasn't that sad where they buried Lalo and Howard together?
Yeah, yeah. And then Mike is even like, "Hey, be easy, be gentle with that guy's body."
Yeah, he deserves it. That guy deserves some gentleness. And he takes out his yeah, he takes his shoes, he takes his well, and they're like sort of almost like cuddling. They're almost like they're like facing each other, like they're almost gonna
Right.
embrace. You see the positioning?
Yeah, yeah. Very
It's like
artistic.
yeah, it's like, that this is like they're so different. And they just end up like in the same, mass grave uh together. And so when in the Breaking Bad universe, when they're cooking all this meth, I mean they're cooking on top of the burial of we
Oh,
know they're on top of uh those two guys, those Howard and Lalo, which is gives it a different feel. But when Gus kills his friend, his minion later, they like if they're used to burying people, you'd think they bury him instead of what do they do? They like dissolve him in acid, don't they? Maybe Gus just
so
discovered that that's better.
here's
It's
something.
easier.
Here's a thought that just struck me. It's a little speculative, so I don't know if this will happen. But let's go to the end of the Breaking Bad universe. Walt dies in, I guess he dies in the Nazi drug lab, but I forget exactly. But at some point soon in the Breaking Bad universe, toward the end of it, the cops should be finding and investigating Gus's drug lab. And at that point, there's a decent chance they could find Lalo and Howard's bodies. And at that point, maybe for all we know, Howard's a cold case still at that point.
Mhm.
And then
Yeah.
after Walt dies, they look to the drug lab and they find Lalo and Howard's body, and they realize that Howard was connected to the drug trade somehow.
So with this sounds like it's against your idea of Cliff being important, at least in the short term, because you need a lot of episodes. Then I guess you need probably more time to work all this complicated stuff out in the post Breaking Bad universe. Well, you can't waste much time on Cliff, and the local police investigating in the immediate aftermath of this. So maybe you get one episode of that, and then 4 episodes in the post Breaking Bad universe. Like I don't know why you wouldn't give us I don't know why you wouldn't give us 5 good episodes in the concurrent with Breaking Bad or post Breaking Bad. It seems like they're done with the sort of foreshadowing with the clips from the future. It seems like they're done with those because the very last one I think was in the aftermath of Breaking Bad. Was when he was sending Francesca on her way. Was I don't know if that was this season or last season. Um, but it seems like if the more stuff you want to do, the sooner you want to get to the post Breaking Bad universe.
Seems like we'll probably be headed there pretty soon. I
Mhm.
guess at some point we know that younger Walt and Jesse are going to show up in this show, so we still have that to look forward to.
Do we know that?
Yeah, that's been something that's been announced for like months.
Oh, you're killing me! You're killing me! Well, a spoiler. You've spoiled.
I thought
Enough.
everybody knew. It's
I don't.
something everybody's been talking about like since the season started.
Have they really? Well, okay, okay. I'm sad now. I'm sad. I didn't want to know. I wanted to be surprised.
Oh well.
All right. I guess the
Yeah.
rest of it. All right. I guess I could. Okay. All right. All right. All right. Well, sorry for the listeners who are in my exact situation where you know everything up to now except the media chatter, and you don't want to be. Sorry if we ruined it for anyone else. But okay. Cool, man. All right. Well. I'm still, despite the flaws. I mean, I don't want to make it sound like I really disliked this episode. I mean, we've nitpicked some things, but this is still exciting. This is still going
Oh yeah,
strong.
the thing is, I just basically I think that this writing crew is probably the best on TV, and so I kind of like I do some writing myself, so I kind of because they're the best, I kind of like to analyze what they do and the ways they do it, and so I like seeing the holes and the weaknesses. Like I really do believe that it was that Plan A was for Lalo to just be wandering around with the recorder. And so I believe that if Gus had not gone there, we would just get, 30 minutes of of Lalo wandering around the laundromat, pressing every button, trying to find the secret lair.
Yeah, that's funny. Have you looked at have you I've been meaning to do this. Have you looked into other Vince Gilligan or Peter Gould stuff as after being a fan of these shows?
I haven't. What other stuff is there?
I googled it once. There is some stuff. I don't remember it off the top of my head, but we should
You
look
know,
into it because it's
I want
probably
them to do something new. I want them to like call it quits. Say this is the masterpiece. It's done. 2-part masterpiece. Call it quits. And I want them to create a new universe next.
Yeah, I think I'm with you. I think I'm with you on that. If that's the choice, I think that Walt, that would they struck gold with that. Bob Odenkirk as Saul was just another amazing character that you could make an entire show, an entire universe out of. Kim is okay. I mean, she's good as a supplement to this show. I don't think Kim doing her own thing as the is better than creating a new universe. I'm with you. I think the talent is there to do something more interesting. But we should look at the past stuff too at some point because who
And I
knows?
think
Maybe
that
it could
writers
be
of
just
this quality and showmakers of this quality, they're too limited if they stick to the old thing. Like, oh, we'll show you how somebody breaks bad. I want to see what they do once they move beyond the Breaking Bad idea.
yeah. So Saul, I mean, does Saul get good ratings? It's not as good as Breaking Bad, but is it popular?
I
Is the
think it's
only
pretty
reason?
popular, and
Yeah,
it's even more popular among the critics. I think
yeah.
one
Okay,
of those
yeah.
cases where the critics are right to like something.
But for all you know, Vince Gilligan has made 5 excellent universes that you would love if
Could
since
be.
you've never looked at
I'll
stuff.
look into it.
Yeah, we should. But yeah, for now, okay, cool, man. I like that was great, and yeah, I will see you again, same time, same place next week.
Sounds good.